Hi, good evening, everyone. I think we will just start since the recording will be available for those that will join in later. So, welcome to our first class after the intro session we had. Uh, yeah, that was 2 weeks ago. So this is basically our first workshop class where we will be working on a server with Node.js, which is essentially JavaScript in the backend. So before we start, as promised, I will go over the tools that are commonly used for backend development or software development in general, but they are very useful when it comes to backend development. So the first one is your IDE. So the first one is your IDE. And in my case, I'll be using VS Code and okay, let me start presenting my entire screen here. So the first tool is the IDE, which stands for Integrated Development Environment. So for in our case, we will be using VS Code. But if you are already familiar with another IDE, which is other than the VS Code, you can still use it for your project or to write your code. So let me just quickly show you how VS Code looks like. So basically, this is how VS Code looks like. And to install VS Code is very straightforward. All you have to do is just open your browser and type in VS Code download, and then click on the first link. Wait for it to load, and after that you will be able to download VS Code for whatever browser or whatever operating system you are using. So it's loading. I don't know, probably something that has to do with my internet. Let me check another. I think maybe my internet is slow. So basically, to download a VS Code is straightforward. I just hope this thing will load. It might be. So in case we are not able to view the page, it is still straightforward to download. Maybe they are having some issues with their site. I don't know why it's not loading. So that's for VS Code. So the next thing we need before we can be able to develop our develop our server with Node.js is the node itself. So downloading the node tool, it's straightforward. I already shared the links in the backend track group, WhatsApp group, and I believe most of you have already installed the necessary softwares. Ah, I think this has to do with my network. My network is not. Let me change the browser and see if I can. Let me try Chrome and see if it has something to do with my other browser. Oh, it's still loading. I think it's from my internet. So basically that this one too will not load. I wanted to show you how you can quickly download the package, the software. Okay, all right. This one also. So as you can see here, you can select from the varieties of operating systems. If you are using a Windows or Mac OS or uh, other operating system, we all have their installation packages here, so you can quickly go and install Node.js before you can be able to write Node.js code. In my case, I already have it installed, so I will not be installing it in this session. So the last one is what we will be using to test our APIs. So when we build our APIs, we want to test them as we are building them, not after we are done building. So we will be using, okay, we'll be using Thunder Client, and Thunder Client is just an extension in VS Code. I will show you that, but the most popular one that is used to test endpoints is it's called Postman, I think. So it's called Postman. Let me quickly show you how the interface of Postman looks like. So basically, this is what Postman is. You can use it to test your endpoints or routes as you are building them. But for the purpose of this class, we will not be using Postman because it's an additional installation for you guys. We will quickly use an extension that is readily available to us on VS Code. So if you are using another, maybe another IDE, you can probably search for the extension there and see if you can find one else. You can go ahead and install Postman on your PC. So the extension, let me see. If you want to get the extension, you click on this what is this thing called, the marketplace icon, and search for Thunder Client. Ha, my network will not let me search for. Okay, I think it will let me. Just let me copy and paste the name of the. So in case you want to install the, it's called Thunder Client, I think. Yeah. Okay, look at it here. So this is Thunder Client. You can see that it has 1 million and so down number of downloads. So you can quickly know that this is the right Thunder Client and install it on your VS Code. Thereby, uh, so after installing Thunder Client, that means you don't need to install a third-party application like Postman to test your endpoints after building them. So this is this. Okay, so I think these are the only tools we need. Of course, were to if we were to connect with database, I would have shown you how additional softwares that you would need to download. But since we are not going to do that in this tutorial, in this session, so then there's no need, but we will do that later on. So after that, I think these are the tools that you need for this session. So after that, we will move on to the hands-on. Okay. So after that, we will move on to the actual class, which is developing a server with .js. So I will quickly create a folder and name it. Let's see. Just let's see. Let's see. Let's just name it my server. And open JS in this. All right. So created a I created a folder, my server, which is where we will keep our JavaScript code, our Node.js code. So the first thing you need to do to start your Node.js project is to open your terminal, which you can easily do that by dragging, clicking and dragging at this point, or you can you can press Control plus J, and I think in MacBooks or iOS it will be Command J. So Control J or Command J to get your terminal to appear. So the first thing you need to do is to initialize the project. So how do you do that? So, well, if you have installed that Node application or Node software, which I was not okay, I've shown you. If you have installed that Node.js in your PC, you can verify the installation by writing something like node, then dash dash version. By checking the version, as you can see, I have version 16.17.1 installed. That means I'm ready to go. So you can quickly check whether the installation is done correctly or not. So after that, the next thing is to initialize our Node.js project. How do we do that? So it's simple, straightforward, and the only thing, the code that you need to run to start your Node.js application is npm. And what is this npm? So this npm is just like pip if you are coming from Python background, or conda if you are coming from an conda. It's just like it's a package manager. Yes, package manager that you can use to install packages, update packages, uninstall packages, and start a Node.js project and many things like that. So the first thing to start a Node.js project is to run this code npm init, which means initialize a Node.js project. So after clicking enter, it will start asking you some questions. So it's asking for the package name, which is my project name. You can see the default is my server, where it's inferred from the name of my the name of my folder. So I will just click enter. Version, description, I don't need that. Entry point, so your entry point should be your main server file, the file that you will run whenever you want to start your server. So in my case, I prefer to name it server.js instead of index.js. As you can see, the default one here is index.js, but I prefer server.js. So after that command, I can skip that. Git repository, if you want to add Git repository to your project, I will skip that. Keywords, author, you can add your name. License, if you are building a licensed project or you want to add an open source license to it, then you can type in your license here. Is it okay? Yes. So the first thing, as you can see, it has created this package.json for me automatically, and this package.json basically keeps all the records, all the needed dependencies and their version of of your entire application. So it keeps all the records, so that if someone wants to maybe clone your project from your GitHub repository, you can use this package.json to install the right dependencies and also the right version of those dependencies. So now it's time to start writing our Node.js application. So the first thing is to create a file, which is basically a JavaScript file. So I named it server.js. You can name it anything like app.js or index.js, but I prefer to stay consistent with server, naming my package and everything with server. So before we start writing the actual Node.js code, I would like to quickly do a refresh on two fundamental concepts or things in JavaScript that I think are very important to know. So the first one is functions. So how do you write functions in JavaScript? Well, the first thing, or writing a function is simple as uh, it's a simple way. Writing a function is as simple as wait a minute. So writing a function is very simple in JavaScript as well. So the first thing you need to do is to write the function keyword, then the name of the function, let's say print, then wow, I'm not doing Python. Okay, print, then the two bracket, then the curly bracket like so. So this is how easy it is to write a function in JavaScript. So we can the next thing is to write the code that you want to run whenever you invoke the function. So I will just log something into the console. Say something as simple as this function. So to invoke a function, you call the function like so, just like in other programming languages. So after doing that, then whenever you run this file, this function will fire. I can quickly go and show you how you can do that. So you can see that it logs this message in our console. So this is how you write a function in JavaScript. But one thing I want to make clear here is this is the traditional way of writing a function in JavaScript. So with the emergence of ES6, which is a new way of writing JavaScript script syntax, which has gained popularity over the years, people don't normally write their functions this way. So how do we write it nowadays? So nowadays we just declare a variable like, let's say, print two, a variable, then the name of then a function, then print something like that. So this is the new way of writing JavaScript. Before this is after where let's see, no. So this is another way of writing function, but this is not actually the new way. So the new way of writing JavaScript, okay, JavaScript functions after the emergence of ES6 is like so. They call them the arrow functions. So the first thing you do is to get rid of this function keyword and then add a equal and uh, equal and what's this greater than sign. So doing this is the same as writing your function this way, but nowadays this is the preferred way of writing a function using the arrow function. So you declare a variable and then assign it to the function. So then the next thing I would like to the next thing that I would like to discuss about is the anonymous functions. So this is how you write your functions. These are named functions because this function you can maybe later on call the function print true, and then you will be able to call it. But anonymous functions are functions that you can only call them once. So an anonymous function is let me start with the traditional way of writing anonymous functions. So you write function, the function keyword, but you don't give it any name. So then the two brackets, then the curly brackets. As you can see, this function does not have any name. So if you want to call it, then you can wrap it in a bracket like this, and then invoke the function like this. So as you can see, you cannot reference this function later on in your code. You can only call it once. So this is a concept of anonymous function. So why are anonymous functions important in our case? So basically, when we start writing our Node.js codes, there's this concept of callbacks where you pass in a function as an argument inside another function so that it fires later. So mostly anonymous functions are used. So after maybe calling a certain Node.js feature or Node.js method, you then pass in an anonymous function that will fire whenever that parent function is invoked. So this is how you write anonymous function. So how do you write anonymous function using the arrow function? Well, it's easy to do that also. You can just do the like so, then also wrap this in bracket and then invoke it like this. So this is how you write an anonymous function with an arrow function. So this is an arrow function, which is also an anonymous function at the same time. So there, I talk about callbacks area. So what are callbacks? As I said, callbacks function are functions that you can pass inside another function as arguments. So let me just give a quick example of one callback function, then we can begin building our server with Node.js. So let's say we have a a function called print, which logs in something. Let's say it takes an argument a and logs it in the console. Let's say we have this function. So let's say we have another function do something. So this do something takes in another, let's say child func. It's in a child function, and let's say we have a number const no, because let's say we have a number declared inside this function. So we want this function do something function to log this our new variable using the argument we are passing. So we can call this child function and pass in the no. So as you can see, this do something is the parent function, and we are passing in a function as a child function. We are passing in a function as an argument, and that function we are using it we are invoking it and passing it this variable we have, this which we assign to 3. So how can we call this function then? So we can do that by, let's say, do something. So as you can see, this function needs another function, a child function, to be passed into it. So fortunate for us, we have this print function. So we can pass this print function here. So when we run this, you can see 3 gets logged out. So this child function is just like a placeholder for a function. So in this case, when we invoke this do something function and pass in this print function, this print function will replace this child function. And remember that this print function takes in an argument and logs it in our console. So this is basically how a callback function works. So I think we are done with the uh, revise on, I think, the fundamental concepts or the newer syntax of JavaScript that we wanted to know before we start building the server. So now it's time for us to start building the server. So what's the first thing? So okay, before that, the what we are going to use actually is called Express, not express.com. Express.js. So it's a framework, a JavaScript framework you can use to build your APIs easily and quickly, just like Django in Python or Flask or Fast API. Oh, my network will not allow me to load this page, but basically what we'll be using is this Express. So to install a package in your Node.js application, it's as easy as writing npm install, then the name of the package, which in our case is Express. So I will press enter and wait for it to install. Ooh, okay, at least wow, that was fast. So as you can see, I've installed Express in this project. So I can verify the installation by going to this package.json. You can see under dependencies, we have this Express package and the version of the package, the Express package we just installed. So so what is the first thing you do after installing Express? So the first thing is to import the Express package. Let me just take this back. Okay. So the first thing is to import the Express package. So how do you do that in Node.js? It's as easy as writing const, then the name of the package, then equal to require, then Express. So this is how you import a package in Node.js. You first declare a placeholder variable, which in our case is Express, and then assign it to require function, then the name of the package you just install. So this is how you. So the next thing is for us to, yeah, the next thing is for us to declare our port number. So as you all know, since we are running the server in our computer, there are multiple services that are running at the same time in your computer. So you want to make sure that you have an identifier that whenever you try to access the services that are running in your PC with that identifier, that request comes directly to our Express server. It's just like the ones you normally do if you are coming from a front end. If you are coming from front end libraries like React, then you are very familiar with the concept of port numbers. So you can do that easily by let's give our on 8,000. So this is our port number. So what's the next thing? The next thing is to actually invoke express JS. Now here we just import the package, but we didn't do anything with it. So the next thing is to actually do something with it. This is this is as simple as declaring a variable and then calling the express with two brackets. So this is how you invoke uh, the express package. So we are storing the invocation is in this variable app. So the next thing is to make sure that whenever we make a request to our local machine through this port, that our server handles that request. So how do we do that? It's as easy as calling the app, which is reference to this app, then listing. So we are telling our app to listen to, then the port number, which is this variable port. We already have this variable port, which is 8,000. So the first thing that goes here is the port, then a callback function. So in this, what do we want this function to say? So this is, so we can say something like, let me use brackets. So this is a callback function. We call the listing method on our app variable. So it takes two arguments. The first one is the port, which is 8,000. So we are telling our server to listen to this port. So the next one is the callback function, the function that will that is called after our server established a connection with this port. So we are just logging something to our console. So now we have a minimal express server that we can start testing. So to do that is to run our express server. To start the server is as easy as calling node, then the name of our file, our main file, which is the server.js. So after the running that, you can see our server started at port 8,000. Let me just try and increase the font so that you can, I think this is better. So you can see that our server is started at this port. So but the problem we have right now is whenever we make any changes to this file, we have to then stop the server and restart it manually. But we can solve that with a package which is called nodemon. Let me see if I can quickly show you the package. If only my network will let me show you. Well, let's just continue. So the package name is nodemon. So with nodemon we can start our server once, and whenever we make any changes, it will automatically detect that and restart the server itself without us going and doing it manually. So the way you install packages, as we did earlier, is to write npm install, then the name of the package, which in our case is nodemon. So another thing that I would like to add is this nodemon is not a dependency for our, it's not a project dependency for our server, meaning even without this nodemon we can still run our server fine, as far as we are willing to uh, restart our server manually whenever we make changes. So meaning this node mon is not a, it's not a dependency. It's just a development dependency. We want to ease our the development with it. So we can add something like this. So this is us telling npm to install nodemon, but only as a dependency for development, not a requirement to run our server. So running this will go and install nodemon for us. Now, if I open this package.json, you can see another entry has been added, which is dev dependencies. So anything that is only related to development and not our actual server, we just add this dash dash save dev, and it will be added on the dev dependencies instead of this actual dependency. So this is how we are. So after that, we can then stop our server and call nodemon instead of node. The other time we were using node to start this server, but right now we can use nodemon since we have it installed. So you can see nodemon watching part. It's watching all the parts so that whenever we save our file, it will automatically reload our server. So now that we are able to set up our server, the next thing we will do is to start a creator route. So how do you do that? So it's how do we do that? So in before we start creator route, we need to know about the methods that are available for us. So we have the get method. In get method, you basically send a get request method from the client when you want to get something from the server without sending anything. So let's say, for instance, you navigated to a user's page in your browser, in your web application or something like that, then your browser will send a get request to get maybe the user details, which will then be displayed in your screen. So, but when you are registering a user to your website, you are onboarding that user, you will get the user information through a form. So, if you want that form to be gotten by your server, then you will not use a get request. You will use a different request method, which is the post request. So there's a get request for getting, which you don't need to send anything. You just want to maybe get a list of users, and then there is post request when you want to send some data to your server, and your data then can do something with it. There are also other types of request method like the delete method. When maybe you want to delete a user from your database, there is a patch method usually used to update. Maybe your user wants to change his name or her name, so you can use the patch method. So how do you start? How do you create those routes? So it's as easy as calling the app variable, referencing the app variable, then the request type you want. So the first one we want now is the get request. So this is how you do it. So the first thing your method needs is the path. So the path, what I mean by the path is after visiting maybe www something like www.fb maybe.com, then slash. So anything after this slash is your path. Anything including the path, including the first forward slash. Anything after the .com is a path. So in our case, we want the root path, which is just a forward slash. So our get method will take is a callback function. So the callback function will be something like this. So this automatically will take in two arguments. Yeah, two arguments, which is the request. The request object will have anything that is coming from the server information, or if you are sending data from the front end, the request method will the request object will contain all those details. Then a rest, which stands for response object. So after that, then we can send something. We can do something we can do something and send a response. So now what I want to do is just send back a message. Let's say let's say request successful. So this is how you create a route in Node.js. So the next thing is to test this route. So as I said earlier, you can use Postman, or you can just get the Thunder client extension for your Node.js and use it. So as you can see, I have already installed the Thunder client in my uh, VS Code. So I can just click on this like so, and then click on new request. So since we are running the server on our PC, then the way you access such is through local hosts. Then our port, which is 8,000, then the forward slash. So now if I send this request, you can see here we have different multiple types of requests that we can send. But since our route is a get route, so we can leave it as it is now, and then you can see we successfully got a request back, or a message back, which is request successful, and our status is 2000. Okay, so we can also then, so this is basically how you write a get request. So the next thing is a post request. Post request, just like how you, it's the same thing, the same way you write a get request is the same way you write the post request. So let's say we do something like add user, then our callback function. And don't forget that our callback function takes in the request object and the response object. So now, how do we get the data that is sent from the client? So the way we do that is by let's say data request. So as I said earlier, you can get anything that is sent in a request in this rec object. So we can say request, then there is the body parameter like so. So if we save this, we can, before saving that, we can console log the data, and then maybe send something like rest dot send. Let's just send back the data that we sent to our friend. Now, if we go here and do something like add user, that is this path, we are going this path now, add user, And don't forget to change your posts, your request method type to post. As you can see, we have post here, not a get request, so you must change that to post. So after that, now if I send this, I'll get an okay on the fine, yeah, okay, yeah. If I send this, let me just add a body quickly. Let's say we are adding a user. Enter my name correctly. Let's say we are adding this user with the following uh, values of name and email. Let's say we're adding that this user to our database. Now if I send this, you can see that our console is logging undefined. That's because we need to add some configurations before we can be able to get the user data. So it's easy. Let's see configurations, configs. So the way you configure Express to be able to get data from users request is by calling the app, then call this use method. So the next thing is express.json. So this is you telling Express to use express.json. That is, a user can send a JSON data, and your server should be able to accept that. And the other configuration we need is .url encoded. So these two do the same thing in the same way. So this one is for when you are sending the request using libraries like Axios or Fetch API in JavaScript, while this one is when you are sending the data directly from a form. So in HTML, there's this action attribute that you can add to your form element. So if you are using a form directly to send the data to Express, then this one will be the one to let you send that data. But if you are using a JavaScript of or library like Axios or Fetch API or anything that you can use to make request, then this one will be the one to handle the data that you sent. So now if I save this and run this again, you can see we get this printed in our console name Abdullahi email, and here also we got the response like so. So adding these configurations is what let us it was what enabled us to be able to get the data that is sent to our yeah that is sent to our server. So the next thing is, let us mimic a database. We are not going to connect to a real database in this particular session, but we will just make a mimic of a database. So let's say we have this products. Let's say we have a database of products. Let's say we have ID, or maybe let's say ID, and then maybe name of the products. Let's say Apple. Let's say then price 30. So let's say we have another one with ID equals to 2. Then name, let's say something like orange, then price, some, let's say 20, 0. So let's say this is our database. This is our database. So we will need to be able to get the whole list of products that we have. We will need to be able to add a product. We'll need to be able to delete a product. So these three features we are very essential for us. Let's, for example, so let's see how we can implement these features. So the first thing you do is to call your app. Then, so to get all the products at once, you will need to do a get request, which is the request method that you need when you are only getting information from the database. So we can say something like slash products, then our callback function. So how do we get this? How do we say? Well, this is simple. We can just call the res that then send. Then we can just give it this products. So it's as simple as this. So now if we change this to get, or let me open a new request. Let me copy this. We go to slash products, a get request. Since this is a get request, so we are sending a get request to slash products. If we do this, you can see it returned a list containing the two elements we have, which is this one and this one, with all the elements they have, like the ID, name, and price, and also for this one. So this is the get. We are getting the products at once. So what if we only want to get a particular product? So since we have this ID field, we can leverage on that to get a particular product that we are interested in. So how do we do that? Is we do that by, since we are getting, we will use get method again. Let's go products and slash. Then this leads us to route parameters. What are route parameters? Sometimes when you are browsing a site, when you are browsing a website, let's say facebook.com, then slash maybe users, then slash, after this slash you'll see maybe some chunks of gibberish like this. So this is usually the user ID. So when you hit this route, your server will take the ID and find a user from database whose ID is equal to the ID in your route, and then maybe return the data of that particular user. So these are what we call route parameters. So in our case, we need the ID. So as you can see, I added this column before the ID name, meaning this is dynamic. This ID is not static. We can have one, we can have 10, we can have 1,000, or maybe a string. We can have anything like that. So as always, our callback function takes in the request response object. So now, how do we get a particular product? So we can create a, a variable product and assign it to what. So how do we, so in JavaScript, there's this method, this filter method that we can call on this product ID. So before we before I explain this, we will like to first know the ID that that our user requested for. So let's say for our user visited this route product slash then two maybe. So we want to see how we can get that two. So it's as easy as uh, declaring a variable ID since we are looking for ID then equal to, then as I said, anything that is coming from your client can be found in your request object. So request dot then params ID. So this is how we can get the ID that our user is interested in. So if our user visited this route, product slash then two, this is how we can get the two, and then we are assigning it to this variable ID. So after that, then our filter function. So our filter method will take in this product, which is our pretend database, and we call in the filter method. This filter method will iterate over all the elements. Like it will start with this one, which is the first one, then run some logics. If the logic returns false, then it will run to the second one until it finds the one uh, that returns true. Else, it will return a null, which is nothing or empty or something like this, like that. So we are taking the products, which is this one, then we call the filter method. So this filter method will iterate over all the elements, which is this element, and return. We are checking for element.id. So let's say we are iterating. This is our current in our iteration. This we are on this current one. So we are trying to check that this ID, which is element.id, is equal to this ID, which we are getting from our user's request. So if it's true, then this element will be assigned to this product variable we have here. So the next thing is to send back product to our user. So save, and let's go and test our endpoint. We can do this. Let's say we are sending 10. So as you can see, we sent 10. Then we are getting an empty array with nothing inside. And that's because in our database, we only have two elements, and one with ID1 and the other with ID2. So now if we change this to 1, so you can see that we got this one, the first one. And if we change this to 2, then we are getting orange, which is the second one we have here. So we are done with getting. We started with this, which is getting all the products we have at Wango. Then we did the other route, which will let us get only one at a time. So the next thing is to see how we can add products to this database or array this array which simulates a database for us. So to do that, as you know, since we are going to be sending the data from the client request, so this will be a post request. So let's say slash products and maybe slash add. I will take the request, then the response object. So in real sense, we all know that this ID should be automatic or should be added automatically. That is, we don't want to be the one to be sending this ID manually from the user request. So when you are using a real database, it's generated automatically. But since we are not using a real database, we are just using an array as our database, we will be creating the ID automatically. So how are we going to do this? So we can start by declaring a variable ID. So the next thing is to get the last element in this array. So getting the last element, we can do that by calling the products. So to get the last element, we have this array method slice, which you can use to get a portion of your array. So to get the last element, we pass in -1. So passing in this -1 means we will be getting this, which is the last. Let's for example, if we have other elements in this array, the last one, the one at the bottom will be returned when we pass in this -1. So after that, it will return an array. So it will return something like this without this. It will return something like this without the other one. So we can get the actual element. So if we do something like this, we call these square brackets and passed in 0, we will get the object like this. We'll be getting the object without the array. So we'll be getting something like this. So this is why we are using this. So getting that, then we can say something .id, which is the ID, m plus 1. That means our new ID now. Let me call it new ID. So our new ID, which will be at the bottom of this database, will have an ID that is 1 unit greater than the last one we had. So after that, we will then get the products, and the way we do that is by saying request dot body. So this will be the body of the body, the object that we are sending from our client, just like we did here. So this is the body. For example, this is the body. So now we are getting the product like this. So we are only going to be sending, let me just do some add /add product, which will be a post request, then our body. So we have name, let's say of price, let's say 50. So as you can see, we are not sending the ID. We want that to be done automatically on the server. That's why we we go through this trouble just to know the last ID we had and then adding one to it and before we save it. So since we are only sending the name and the price, but we want the ID to be inside this product, which is the body that we'll be sending, we can do something like this product.id and assign it to this new ID variable. So after that, we can then push our new product to our database. So I think that's it. So the first thing is to get our ID, which is the last ID we had plus one. That's our new ID. Then get the product, which is coming from here. After that, then adding the ID into the product object, then adding the product into our database, which is this array. So if we save this now and I do something like this, it's hanging, meaning it's not going. Oh, I'm not sending any response. So we need to send something like send maybe the product we just added. So if I send this, you can see that it's returning the product we just added to our database, which is this pineapple. So now I can go back. I can call on this again, this, so that I can verify that my product is actually added. So as you can see, now we have three. Before we had two, but now after adding the pineapple, we have three. And as you can see, the ID here is three, which is 1 unit, uh, one unit above the previous last item, which is the orange. So yeah, so I think, well, it's almost time. So I think with this, so this is basically how you set up your NodeJS server and how you declare routes. So I think I will stop here for today. The next class we will have, I think we will work on something that we can build and maybe add to our resume. But for now, I will stop at here. And yeah, so let me stop the server. You can do that by having Ctrl C. Let me quickly go through what we have done so far. So the first thing is after installing our Express, we import it into this file, which is our server.js file. The second thing we did is to declare a port number, which is like an ID for where your server is running. So after that, we invoke the express package and assign a variable to it, which is this. So for configurations, we did only two, which are this one, so that we can be able to send maybe user registration data or product data from the client to our server. So that's why we wrote these two lines of codes. So after that, we went through routes. We have seen how the get route works, then the post routes, and then we do a mimic of our database, which is just an array with two items in it, and we see how we can get all the items that are in that database. We also see how we can get a single item using the ID. So the ID is like our filter. We use the ID to filter out the rest and get the one we want. Then we also write another request. We also write another route to let us add new product to our to our database. I think I can show you one thing quickly before we round it up, and that's sometimes when you sometimes you will be required maybe to build a monolithic application. A monolithic application is the one that the front end, both the front end and back end are running in the same server. I think the trendiest ones now are not monolithic. They are called the decoupled, where you can have your front end application maybe in in React JS and your server in Node.js, and you only get to communicate between, you only have APIs to communicate between your front end. But in case if you want to build a server application, a monolithic application where you have both the front end and back end in the same place, so you can do that. You can, let me quickly add something like sending back HTML file. So as you can see, in all the requests, in all the routes we have so far, we are sending back data in JSON format. But what if you want to send back a HTML file? Maybe the client request, after the client request for a HTML file, and you want to send it back as the response of that request. So you can do that by firstly creating a, yeah, views. You can do that by creating a folder, views. So after that, there is another configuration that you need. This one is app.set. Then you say view engine. We are using EJS. EJS is the most popular view engine that is used with NodeJS. And and yeah, so after setting this, you still need to do one additional thing, which is installing EJS, and you can do that like so. So EJS is installed in our project, so you can now start writing routes to send back HTML. Let's just quickly create one HTML file. Let's say home. So instead of the extension to be in HTML, your extension will be in EJS. So home.ejs instead of, let's say you have something like home, maybe a H1, something basic like that. So so we are creating another route so that we can serve this EJS file instead of messages that we have been sending back in, like in this case. Let's say home, just home. It takes in the this. So instead of res.send in this case, you do something like res.render in the name of the file, which in our case is home. Yes. So hopefully this will work. Let me create a new request. Creating a new request. No, it didn't. Oh, my server is not working. Stop my server. Okay, now let's try it again. Okay, it's going. So we can even test this on our browser. We can work localhost then home, as you can see. So our server was able to send back this home file to us. If I make changes, cp tag EJS, to something like this. But in this case, okay, so everything is fine, I think. So if we refresh, you can see the EJS appeared. So if you want to use templates, maybe if you want to send back files, static files like this, you can do that with Node.js too. But this is hardly done nowadays because of our front-end frameworks like Vue.js, React.js, and the likes. So I hope we are able to do something today, able to learn something today. And this brings us to the end of this session. So thank you very much. Is there any question? Is it recording? Yeah. Stop. Okay. Yeah. So is there any question? Anyone? Okay, someone asked, why don't I use semicolon? Well, even if I use them, my settings, I'm using Prettier, and you know Prettier is like a framework or a tool that format your code when you save your JavaScript file. So even if I use them, Prettier will automatically remove them. I don't know why, but I just like the syntax without them. But if you like them, you can maybe still use them, but I just don't like seeing them in my code, and Prettier automatically removes them for me. I hope that answers your question. Someone asked, is the class recorded? Yes, of course it is. So I think in the absence of any other question, we can call it a day now. It's almost 10. My plan was to finish before 10, yeah, but So in the absence of any question, I think we can call it a day now. Thank you all for joining. The uh what was the name of this? The recorded session will be available soon. I think maybe tomorrow or the next, but it will be available because I recorded this session. Yeah. So thank you very much for joining and have a great day. Let me